Hello, how you guys doing? Welcome to the Messy Sweet Spot. I'm your host Gigi, and today we're talking about Floetry. You guys know that awesome group back in the day. A lot of people want to know, how did they disappear? What happened? What went wrong? Why don't we see them today? All right, well, I've seen this video and we must react to it. It tells the demise of Floetry, how Amanda, do you guys know that Amanda was a part of Floetry at one point? Whoa, okay. So let's watch this video. Let's react. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe here at the Messy Sweet Spot. And I just appreciate all the likes, the love, the support that you guys give me. It goes a long way. All right, so let's look. All
She knew this. And years later, I would find out that she'd appointed him, of all people, as her manager. So me holding on and harboring on to all of those thoughts and feelings, I'm like, yo, you are just the pettiest of all time. Like, just the pettiest of all time. And learning years later that she would tell me, oh, you know, I had a miscarriage too, and I had empathy for that. And years later, she would tell me she lied about that.
Marsha and I are polar opposites. Like, you kind of don't get more opposite conceptually.
Marsha never made it any easier.
All right, so check this out. You're in the early 2000s, bumping some smooth R&B jams, and there it is, Flowetry. These two British queens, Marsha Ambrosius and Natalie Stewart, stepped onto the scene like a breath of fresh air. But behind those soulful harmonies and poetic vibes was a whole lot of chaos. And no, I'm not talking about artistic differences. We're talking full-on drama, personality clashes, and yes, toxic vibes that eventually tore them apart.
I was the manager, I was the booking agent, I was the PR, I was the photographer, you know, all these different spaces. Friends of mine had moved to Atlanta, and I got us a show booked in Atlanta, and then a show booked in Philly. That was in 2000. Once we got to Philadelphia, we started to work with A Touch of Jazz. When I got to a point of you know, being signed to DreamWorks and putting this record together, kind of handed the management aspect over to a man by the name of Jay Irving, and he became the management of Flowetry. Now, some years later, by the time we started to record Flowology, it seemed that Jay now thought that he had started Flowetry, and he wanted to become creatively involved in things, you know, dumb it down. You gotta come back this way, we gotta cross over, we gotta make this thing go mainstream, right. You know, when, you know, if you're a poet, this is mainstream, 7-time Grammy nominated, you know, I can't even get into just all of the amazing, fabulous things that Flowetry was doing at the time. And so I fired Jay. It was at the end of 2006. At the beginning of 2006, Marsha had signed a solo deal with Aftermath. Yes. And once I fired Jay, Marsha decided to pursue Jay's path.
Now, you're here. I bet you're wondering, what really happened between Marsha and Natalie? How did they go from being best friends and creative soulmates to practically not even being in the same room?
I'm like, look, whatever happened, there were a lot of things that happened that just make Flowetry it's never happened.
Don't worry, I got you. We're about to dive into the rise and fall of Flowetry, the iconic R&B group that proved even the best duos have their breaking points.
We went through a really, really bad time, and going back to the whole mental health issue and abuse and addiction, we have to start speaking about these things, because when you're the friend that just sits there and enables, if something really goes down, I feel like the blood is on your hands.
All right, let's rewind a bit. Before the fame, the beef, and the, let's call it, creative tensions, Flowetry wasn't just some industry engineered girl group. Marsha and Natalie were genuine friends who'd known each other since high school in the UK.
I came to America when I was 21 in 2000 with my best friend Marsha Ambrosius. We started a group called Flowetry a year prior to that in London.
Yep, they were both Brits, bonded over a love for music and poetry, hence the name Flowetry. Marsha was the singer, Natalie was the poet, and they were on a mission to bring their unique blend of R&B and spoken word to the world.
Right.
They started performing together in the UK's underground scene, but they quickly realized that the real R&B scene was in the US. So like any ambitious artist with dreams, they packed their bags and moved to Philadelphia.
We landed in Philly when Jill Scott was recording her first album. Music Soul Child, Bilal, Glenn Lewis, Kindred, like classics. Floetic happened to jump on that wave. That wave wasn't a temporary wave. That wave still gets me to tour to this day. I can still sing Say Yes like I wrote it yesterday. I wrote it 17 years ago.
Coming to Philly, walking into Axis Studio or walking into, Larry Gold's studio, it was like walking into your CD collection.
But it wasn't easy. There were years of grinding, performing at open mics, hustling for attention. But finally, the stars aligned and they landed a record deal. That's when Flowetry, as we know it, was born. It's the early 2000s, and Flowetry drops their debut album, Floetic. This wasn't just an album, it was an experience. Songs like Say Yes, All You Gotta Do Is Say Yes, and Floetic were everywhere.
It's Floetic. It's Floetic.
They had the perfect mix of smooth R&B, hip-hop vibes, and spoken word that made them stand out from everyone else in the industry. Critics were calling them refreshing, unique, and even groundbreaking. They were like nothing anyone had heard before. The ultimate blend of sultry vocals and thought-provoking poetry.
Just letting y'all know what time it goes. Flowetry, you say.
But behind the scenes, things weren't as harmonious as those tracks. See, Marsha and Natalie were different, like really different. Marsha was all about the music, the singing, the production, while Natalie was all about the poetry, the message, the meaning.
The thing about Flowetry is it's a poetic delivery, musical intent, and it has a degree of shape, energy, blessing, light, solution on it. Something you could play, meditate, sort your mind out to, heal yourself to. And I am very, 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 I say adamant to that. That's what I do. It's art. It's healing from art, energy. So I'm not going to jump on something to give a different meditation to incite any other energy in that way.
They had very different visions of where they wanted to go, and those differences started to create tension. And if you think this is where the drama ends, buckle up, because this is just the beginning. Flowetry's debut album, Floetic, wasn't just a hit. It was a moment. The album went gold and cemented their place in the R&B world. Marsha and Natalie had struck gold with their unique style, and the industry was all over it. They got nominated for a Grammy. Yes, a Grammy. And they were racking up BET and Soul Train Award nominations too. This wasn't just a side gig or an underground sensation anymore. Flowetry was mainstream.
Yeah, that's what's going on, right? Yeah. Touring.
Well, are you guys gonna party after the show?
Back on the plane. We got a show tomorrow. We're partying right back to New York on an airplane.
There you go. So you can't even relax after the show.
They started collaborating with some heavy hitters in the industry. Everyone from Jill Scott to Common.
My reality was balladry, allowing me to love like a child is free.
And when the Roots wanted to add some soulful vibes to their tracks, they called up Flowetry. These ladies were everywhere, but with each new award nomination, with each new collab, things behind the scenes were getting, well, messy.
Her manager at the time was someone that I was involved with in the UK, that we mutually both knew.
See, while the fame was great for Flowetry as a brand, it wasn't exactly smoothing things over between Marsha and Natalie. As they became more successful, their personalities started to clash even more. Marsha was the voice of Flowetry, the literal voice, and she was becoming increasingly confident in her musical abilities. Meanwhile, Natalie, the poet, felt like her role as the spoken word artist was getting overshadowed. The industry loved Marsha's voice. And let's just say, Natalie wasn't thrilled to feel like she was being sidelined. And that's where the tension starts brewing. You know how they say success changes people? Well, that was definitely the case here. Both Marsha and Natalie had strong personalities, and as the spotlight got bigger, so did their egos. And who could blame them? They'd worked hard to get here. But fame has this funny way of revealing crack in even the tightest partnerships.
And it was hard to see her deteriorate like that, and decisions made on her behalf because she was uncomfortable with our management. So she got her dude that was crazy to manage her.
So here's where the story goes from creative differences to straight up soap opera territory. Behind the scenes, the friendship between Marsha and Natalie was starting to crack, and not in a small way. We're talking about major arguments, on-stage tension, and even rumors flying around about jealousy and resentment.
Person, you just will never pray for me, look out for me, nothing. It's just not there. I was like, we were ever cool? Were we ever cool?
Flowetry is still on the road, touring, performing to sold-out crowds. But by this point, Marsha and Natalie are hardly even speaking to each other. And let me tell you, when there's bad blood between bandmates, everyone can feel it. Fans started noticing some serious tension during performances. Like, Marsha and Natalie were doing their thing, but they had this coldness between them. Instead of that sisterly vibe that made Floetry so magical in the first place, it felt like two co-workers just clocking in for a shift.
What's happening?
And then there was the whole situation with Marsha going solo. Now, Natalie had always seen Flowetry as a true partnership, a shared creative project between two equals. But Marsha, she was ready to take her talents to the next level. There were rumors that Marsha was already eyeing a solo career, and she did exactly keep it a secret. Natalie felt blindsided, like the rug had been pulled out from under her. She was in this for the poetry, the message, the art, while Marsha seemed increasingly focused on the fame and the career boost. Things finally hit a breaking point during one particular rough tour. The exact details are hazy. They've both been pretty tight-lipped about it, but the general consensus is that Marsha's ambition and Natalie's sense of betrayal reached a boiling point. There were reports of screaming matches backstage, canceled shows, and some pretty brutal insults thrown back and forth. It got ugly. And just like that, Flowetry was no more. Marsha left the group to pursue her solo career, and Natalie was left trying to pick up the pieces. Enter Amanda Seales, who you know doesn't do quiet or subtle. Suddenly, Flowetry went from poetic serenades to, let's say, an extra spicy sound with Amanda's outspoken flair. Fans had mixed feelings, to put it mildly. Some were like, yes girl, bring that energy, while others were clutching their vintage CDs like this is not what we ordered. Amanda did her thing, but the vibe was different. It was like adding Tabasco to a cup of chamomile tea. Bold, but confusing.
I was asked to join Flowetry after Natalie. I was told that Natalie left. Apparently that was not the case, but that's what I was told. And then we prepared to go on tour. And they did not tell the fans Natalie would not be joining Marsha on the tour.
Okay.
So when I come on stage, I do not resemble Natalie in any shape, way, or form. So immediately, our first show in Boston, people are like, well, who the f*** is this bitch? But I can sing and I know the songs. So the first show, great time, good job. But now the word is out. Natalie ain't on the tour.
Right.
It's Amanda, whoever this broad is. It's Amanda Seales. Well, actually, no, I had a name by then because I had done MTV. We now went from Boston. The next show that we were doing was somewhere else. I can't remember, but maybe Philly. I guess to just correct the scenario, it's not that people were mad at me because of how I was delivering the work. It was that they felt duped by the ticket sales because they had bought tickets to see the Flowetry they knew, and they were protesting that this was not the Flowetry they knew. Nonetheless, every time I won them over because I am talented.
Okay.
So every time I won them over, and I remember, being at Club Love in DC, and they had their backs turned to the stage, and it was like I was on The Voice. I had to get them to spin them chairs around. But I sang my song.
Ultimately, Amanda moved on, and Flowetry returned to its original roots. But hey, for that short time, the neo-soul scene got some serious spice, and we got a Flowetry lineup we definitely won't forget. But to really understand the Flowetry fallout, we have to look at Marsha and Natalie as individuals. Marsha Ambrosius grew up in a musical environment, with her family always pushing her to succeed. Natalie Stewart, on the other hand, came from a background that valued poetry and staying grounded.
Interesting question for me. Music, to be honest, my introduction to music in my life has really been as a way to know yourself. So I've raised more so on roots, revival, Pan-African messages, self-awareness messages. I used to think Bob Marley was singing to me in a tune Natty Dread because everyone called me Natty Dread when I was little. Learning about self. I'm army family, so we're traveling around, but the one thing that remained constant was the fact that we're of Jamaican descent, and this music was teaching us about ourselves.
Marsha's family encouraged her to chase success, while Natalie's family instilled values of authenticity. When Marsha started pursuing the fame and glitz of a solo career, Natalie saw it as betrayal. They weren't just two musicians with a disagreement, they were two people with deeply rooted beliefs about what success should look like. And those beliefs clashed in a big way.
It's a spiritual journey for me. I'm not really a career chaser like that. I'm really looking to develop as a being and to remember myself ancestrally.
Flowetry officially splits, and Marsha and Natalie go their separate ways. Marsha went solo, releasing Late Nights and Early Mornings, which was an instant hit. She became a sought-after songwriter and producer, working with legends like Michael Jackson and Alicia Keys. Her net worth is estimated at $8 million. Meanwhile, Natalie embraced her poetry roots, releasing independent projects that have kept her true to her original artistic vision. Her net worth sits at about $1 million, and while her career is low-key, she's still doing what she loves.
Again, I'm a poet. I was never trying to be a recording artist. I was never trying to get away from myself in that type of way. You know, I'm not running away. I'm not trying to recreate myself. If anything, I'm remembering myself and becoming more myself, rebuilding, trying to get back to that 7-year-old. She was post-program, you know, she was who she is, and I'm quite happy about that, and ancient, and she remembered a lot of things, and she was, so getting back to that, really.
All right, so you know how every story has that layer of drama that the fans just eat up? Floetry's breakup may have been their own private business, but oh boy, the fans did not let it stay that way. From public scrutiny to fan-fueled conspiracy theories, Floetry's post-split lives were like a reality show waiting to happen. First up, let's talk about Marsha. Our girl Marsha was no stranger to the spotlight. After leaving Floetry, she went solo and crushed it. But, of course, fans were all up in her business, wondering, was she really the reason for the split?
I went to the bitter end of dang near death trying to save someone. So when I knew I couldn't save them anymore, I'm like, look, I'm just going to I have to let this go, and I'm just going to pray for life. So clearly everyone's going to blame, you have to blame somebody. So I'm the one on the other side that looks like, well, she's out here living her best life. Like, look, she's on tour with such and such, album platinum, this and that. And I'm like, I can't help that part. And you can't save everybody.
The rumor mill was spinning at full speed, and some fans practically formed a Marsha fan defense league, while others were busy defending Natalie, calling Marsha out as a sellout. Seriously, social media became a battleground where every interview clip and vague comment was dissected like a Sherlock Holmes mystery. But the real kicker, in 2017, Marsha announced she was engaged to her longtime boyfriend, Des Billups, and they had a daughter together, Nyla.
This is Mrs. Billups.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. You're in this room.
With Madame Noir.
Yeah. You did that one.
This family reveal softened Marsha's image. Suddenly, she was the mom, posting cute baby pics on Instagram, and fans saw a whole new side of her. They were like, wait, the reason for Floetry's breakup is now a wholesome family woman? Talk about plot twist. Marsha's family life gave her a chance to focus on what mattered to her, and she started sharing how marriage and motherhood were grounding her in a new way, even influencing her music.
Changed me, enhanced it. Because bottom line is, been creating the type of music that has created a lot. Now I have one, so I can't there. I'm all for procreating.
And then there was the reunion. Oh yes, in 2015, out of nowhere, Marsha and Natalie announced they were getting back together for a reunion tour. Fans were over the moon. thinking this was the redemption arc we'd all been waiting for. But things got weird fast.
Anything that is non-virtuous, anything that picks at rivalries or negativity, or tries to put us in a pocket, or anything too ignorant, just anything that isn't justified, anything that's not interesting. I don't really mind anything. Ask me anything. I just won't give you the answer, but I might put it to it.
During the tour, people noticed the two of them looked, let's just say, a little frosty on stage. You could practically feel the tension through the crowd. It was like watching two exes try to stay civil at a wedding. The energy was off. They did the reunion tour, and then poof, they went their separate ways again, leaving everyone thinking, what in the world just happened? Fans quickly started speculating again, with theories ranging from, did they do it for the cash, to they were just too different to make it work. Some thought the old wounds had never really healed, and the reunion was just a one-time gig. Whatever the reason, it didn't seem like this was going to be a full-blown comeback, and the reunion left fans with more questions than answers.
That's probably why the tour didn't work either, because I mean, you 2 albums deep at that point. Like, I love Floetry, but I really like Marsha, to be honest with you.
Well, it's a preference, and that's okay too, and that's you. And there's people that will say the absolute opposite, and that's okay too. The tour was absolutely successful in its own right, but it had to stop there, and that was unfair. Like, her manager was so embarrassed. It was like, there's no moving forward and there's nothing that we can do.
So what are they up to today? Well, Marsha's still making music, married with a family, and occasionally posts adorable family moments on social media.
I'm moving on again, sure that you will understand.
Meanwhile, Natalie continues her journey in poetry and music.
Projecting slides on your eyes, decode these tears while I cry, you'll find the origin.
Staying true to her artistic roots and sharing occasional wisdom online. Still the same flowicist at heart.
How could they understand?
They're both living lives that suit them, just not together. At the end of the day, the story of Flowetry isn't just about music. It's about friendship, ambition, and what happens when two people grow in different directions. And honestly, maybe they were better off as two separate forces. They gave us timeless hits. They brought a unique style to R&B, and they've both found ways to keep doing what they love.
Ooh, man, I just want to say thank you for watching, and thank you for creating this video. It was so insightful. So many things I had no idea about this group. So I just want to give my hats off to the creator. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe here at the Messy Sweet Spot. And I'll see you guys on another video. Bye.